Megan, go ahead with your script.
The Behavior Analysis Regulatory Board at 9:14 a.m. on January 21st, 2022 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon by telephone conference call. I will now roll call. Megan Johns, yes. Brenna Lagarde.
Here.
Brad Hendershot. Corey Stein.
Here.
Samantha Parna. Marie McMahon.
Here.
Jennifer White.
Here.
Members, when you wish to speak, please state your last name for the record. For the record, public members calling into the public phone line are asked to email April Fleming at april.fleming@dhsoha.state.or.us and provide your first and last name. Public and interested parties' feedback may be heard during the public/interested parties' feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use the appropriate language, manners, and protocol when conducting board business. This meeting is now called to order.
Okay, good morning. This is Bob Bothwell. I'm the Regulatory Operations Manager. Sylvie's not in the office today. She's probably somewhere between here and the Dominican Republic, but we won't hold that against her. So the first item on the agenda, or the first item of board action, is the approval of the agenda. So, Megan, we need somebody to make a motion to.
I move to approve the agenda. McMahon.
That was McMahon.
Legard, I second.
Motion has been made. I'll call roll. Megan Johns, yes. Brenna Lagarde.
Yes.
Corey Stump.
Yes.
Marie McMahon.
Yes.
Jennifer White.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. So the next thing on the agenda are the reports. The director's report pretty much is COVID-19 is still rearing its ugly head, and the office is manned with a skeleton crew. We only have our licensing staff here for the most part, and then some folks that help with testing. And today it's Ann, April, and myself. Everybody else is telecommuting. Gosh, I think that was about it. Anything else on there?
We are open by appointment only.
Yes, and we are open by appointment only for testing and for bringing applications in. So I think that was about it. Okay. Okay, so the next item is the licensing and fiscal reports. Do you have those up on your screens? Yeah. All right. So going through license issued for analysts, behavior analysts, it's a total of 239 that were issued, and you can see that they fluctuate, but I'm sure that's by quarters, as we don't have everybody renewing at the same time. You do your own license every year, but not all analysts or interventionists license are due at the same time as a collective group. And for the assistant behavior analyst, there's a total of 23 license issued. And that's through the fiscal year, and so we're only a few months in, or about halfway through it now. Licenses renewed, we've had total of 611 and 140 for this fiscal year. And the vast majority of them are online, as you can see by the graph. And the assistants as well. We're all renewing online, and total issued is 39, and this part through the fiscal year has been 10. Interventionists for this year, for this fiscal year, 379, and there's a total of 1,733, and a vast majority of those, it looks like they started out slow with online, but have picked up quite a bit for renewals. And I'm not sure if I skipped it, but on the next page or the page before, licensed by age and gender. It's a fairly young age group and predominantly appears to be female. Assistant behavior analysts, again, by age and gender, a young group, and the majority of them, again, are female. Interventionists on the next page, a very young group for the most part, and again, the vast majority are female. Any questions so far that I can answer? So the next page is the licensing trend for behavior analysts, and it seems to be a continuously growing field. And the assistant, it's been a little bit of a bump. It dropped a little bit, but it's starting to pick back up. And the graph makes it look like it's a huge number, but it's only by 1 or 2. Interventionist licensing trends since 2020, again, have fluctuated, but it's in comparison, it's because there's so many of them, it's by 100, it's fluctuated, and looks like it's moving back upwards here in Q3 with 1,575. The next page are your financials, and Sylvie's covered this with you all before, so I'm not going to go into detail about the share assessments at the bottom, but the board is has a very strong revenue, and that should be good unless we have a case that takes a good chunk of money with the hearing, and so on and so forth. Any questions about what we've covered so far? Okay. Regulatory report. Currently we have 18 cases open, and we have a few cases left over from the 2019 biennium. There's 3. 2021, there's 14 cases still open, and I can tell you that I've received 3 or 4 of them just prior to the meeting. And in the current biennium, we have 1 complaint so far, so there's a total of 18 left open. Any questions on the regulatory report? Everybody still awake? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I have a quick question on the
Yeah.
other,
what?
when it says complaints by type,
Uh-huh.
is that mostly staff related, or is it a mix?
It can be, so sometimes we don't know where the individual's from. So it could be DHS, it could be another licensed member, it could be law enforcement. But yeah, sometimes it's pretty hard. Well, clients on there, but a lot of times it's from another licensee that we get so far, because most people don't, not to make it sound, to minimize them, but some people just don't know exactly what happened or what should be happening in the facilities, and if they're concerned, they'll file a complaint.
Okay, thank you.
All right, ready? I'll turn it over to Ann.
Bob took my chair. Good morning, everyone. Chair, members of the board, for the record, my name is Ann Thompson, and I'm a policy analyst here, and your board is one of the ones I shepherd. So we have a lot of discussion today, and did everybody get the 2 packets of materials? Okay, thank you. I did that because of the sheer size of the file, and I didn't want anyone's materials to get stuck in the intertubes. You know how that goes. So we have a couple of things today, and I'll just kind of open it for you and then leave you to discuss it. Our current administrative rule 824-060-0010, the standards of practice, adopted sections 1 through 7 of the 2016 BACB Professional and Ethical Compliance Code for Behavior Analysts. Well, they have issued a new one. And I have included the existing one in your packet and the new one. I'd like you to discuss if you would like to enter rulemaking and update those standards and what pieces of them. Now, I did get ahead of myself, and I included a vote to open rules and approve a rule schedule. And then after I did that, I started thinking, before we go that far, if you guys are interested in updating this, I am going to have to run the new guidelines by our attorney before we can get to that step, because I'm like, yeah, let's update rules, let's, and then I went, oh, I probably need to run this by our attorney. So what if you guys could just start the discussion? What do you think of the new standards? Is this something you are interested in? So please.
This is Corey Stump. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Corey.
Okay. I just want to throw out my comment that, and I think I'll probably have a comment that is shared with the other BCBAs of the group, but as a licensing agency, I believe that we should, adapt as closely to the BACB policies and rules and regulations as much as possible. So, my immediate thought is that, of course, we should be updating these guidelines so that they are fluid across both national requirements and then our state guidelines.
Okay, thank you, Corey.
This is Jennifer White, and I agree with Corey. I also believe that we should update to be with the BACB on the ethical code.
Okay.
This is Megan Johns, and I agree as well.
Okay. Are there particular sections? I believe I glanced through it, and it looked like the new ones even have some language around social media, and the use of social media, and I don't even remember that being in the old one. Were there any other parts? I mean, are you looking at, you like the whole document? Are there parts of it that you like?
The whole document should be adopted. This is Corey Stump.
Okay.
This is Jennifer White. I also agree that the whole document should be adopted.
Okay. Brenna, any thoughts?
I defer to the BCBAs on the panel. If it makes sense to them, I'm all for it.
Okay.
This is McMahon. I also defer to the BCBA's on the panel, but it makes sense to me.
Okay. Wow, you guys are good. So if it's all right, if this meets the approval of the board, what I can do is, and there's a lot of fluidity in this meeting as far as next steps, I can submit your interest and the existing as well as the new document to our contact counsel and have her review it to make sure that we're in step with statutes and requirements and there's nothing in there that contradicts any of our current requirements. And if that works, I can, our AAG is so busy. She's in a hearing for 3 days right now. If that works, I can bring the rules schedule and all to the next meeting, which is in July 15th. We also have some cases that might be ready, and we might have a meeting in between. Does the board have any feelings on if you would like to meet sooner to update the, to get the rulemaking process started, or would you be comfortable getting any legal advice and bringing this to the July meeting?
This is Jennifer Wyatt. I would be open to meeting sooner so that we could align with the BACB ethics code as soon as possible.
Okay.
Brenna
This is
Legard, I
McMahon.
agree.
I
If we're gonna do it, we should do it.
Okay. Very good. Marie, Brenna, we're all on board. Okay. If we can, because, we've got, I think, 3 or 4 cases, and it might be good to maybe do those cases and this piece of rulemaking in a stutter step so that you're not faced with a July meeting that's 5 hours long. So I'm seeing a lot of nods. 5-hour meetings are nobody's favorite. Okay, so we good with that? Then I can go ahead and get that for you and take care of that. So any other questions before we move on to our next discussion point? Man, y'all are fantastic. Okay, so I received a phone call, an email, and then a letter from an individual named Michael who apparently is, I don't know if he has it yet, but he said at the time, back in December, that he was soon going to receive a credential for behavior analysis from this institution that is outside the BACB. In your statutes, it says for a behavior analyst that you can have this credential, the existing credential, or a credential approved by the board. So I included his letter, and I also included the qualified behavior analyst requirements. I copied and pasted those from their website with what it takes to get this credential. And to break the materials limit, I also included the updated BACB requirements. What's interesting is the qualified behavior analyst requirements. These are the new ones for January 1, 2022. And our existing credentialing association also has new requirements for January 1, 2022. So we can compare apples to apples. So I wanted you to have both of them, what it takes to get this credential that he's asking about, and also what it currently takes to become credentialed by the Behavior Analysis Certification Board. So I open the floor and have you guys discuss, do you think rules should be opened and propose that we accept for license in Oregon this credential from the quality behavior, what is it called? Sorry. Yeah, the Qualified Applied Behavior Analysis Board. Okay. Your thoughts?
This is McMahon. I'm not sure I understand the role of the QBA very well and what it is that they're asking to do. So I feel like I understand when we say BCBA and assistant and other individuals. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, that's fair. I included in your packet how a person currently needs to, what they need to do to be licensed as a behavior analyst in Oregon.
Could you direct us to, I'm trying to find that in our packet. And could you help me out there?
Okay, this should
It's
be
in the agenda packet, not in the
Okay.
other one.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Again, I've got 2 inches of paperwork here, so any assistance
Yeah.
you can provide is appreciated.
Sorry about that.
So what I included was the current rule to get the credential from HLO. And you have to have a current certification by the Behavior Analyst Certification Board, Incorporated, as a board certified behavior analyst or equivalent
Okay.
to be, and you have to get the primary verification sent to us. You have to pass a fingerprint check and submit an affidavit of licensure for any state where you might be certified, licensed. So those are the requirements. This individual has got or is going to get a certification from this other organization. And a certification from that organization, this QBA, currently won't get you a license in Oregon. You have to be certified by the BACB. That is what you need. There's an out in your statutes that say, in order to be licensed, you need to have the BACB certification or a certification approved by the board. So this individual is asking you to consider adding this other credentialing organization's certification to the list of things that will get you a license in Oregon. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay,
And to act in the role of a BCBA.
Correct. That
Got it.
in addition, so what he's asking is, in addition to being BACB, if you got a credential from this other organization, that you could also submit it and qualify for licensure in Oregon. And that's why I included the requirements for this certification, the number of hours and the kind of degree you needed to have, along with what you would need to have to be qualified, to certify through the Behavior Analysis Certification Board, the exams and all that stuff. So that you guys could compare, are these credentials substantially similar? Is this new one just not nearly as rigorous as the other standard? Is this something you would consider? And so that's why I kind of brought both piles to you so that you can compare them. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Excellent.
thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
no, thank you.
This is Megan, and just from looking over both of the requirements, it appears that the supervised field work there's a definite difference of how much each organization is requiring. So like the BACB was 1,500 and is now moving to 2,000, or maybe it was 1,600 before that. I don't remember what we were before. And then they were 1,250 and are moving to 1,500. So even with the updated for the QABA, it's going to be less than the BACB's requirement currently. That's just first thoughts from reviewing both of these documents.
Right. So I also noticed for the QABA program, direct care hours aren't necessary for the fieldwork requirement, but they are for the BACB, right?
Direct care hours.
Yeah.
So this proposed certification doesn't have direct care hours, and there are for the BACB.
Yeah, like they're not required for the QABA credential. You've got to have 1,250 or now 1,500 hours of supervised field work, but and up to 500 hours can be done as one-on-one direct care provider, but direct care hours are not necessary in the 1,500 hour total field work requirement. And the reason that gives me a little bit of pause. Let me think about how to say this. Some of the concerns I've had about the field of late have had to do with how practitioners are responding to behaviors from clients. That seems to be, among the people who aren't BACBs and even some who are, that seems to be kind of the weakness or a trouble spot. And so it gives me a little pause to see a credential or to think about admitting a credential where people potentially have no experience dealing directly with a client. How are they then supposed to supervise people who are or help or support people who are figuring out how to respond to a particular behavior in a particular circumstance?
This is McMahon. I concur with that there's a richness of experience that comes with having direct work with patients or clients that behoove the license.
This is.
I mean, sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. This is Jennifer White and Megan and Corey. I might be wrong about this, but I'm looking from. You could technically, as a BCBA, not have any direct care hours and do your fieldwork supervision if you did all unrestricted hours, right? Because there's no limit on unrestricted hours. There's a limit to restricted activities, but not unrestricted. Am I right in that?
There is a limit. This is Corey Stemp. There is a limit to restricted, obviously, and then unrestricted there is not. You're correct about that. However, unrestricted are defined that unrestricted hours can be direct in terms of working with care providers or providing direct training to direct care providers as well. So you do still have the opportunity to provide direct support even with unrestricted hours.
So it sounds like it's the same then, that you can meet your hours requirement with direct services, but you don't have to. Is that fair?
It would be, sorry, this is Corey Stem again. It would be I would say a very rare situation where individuals are not working directly with clients exhibiting behavior currently. I'd say it's probably possible, but most individuals, continue to accrue direct hours even though they have to top out at a certain number, but they still continue to go, they surpass the number of indirect hours or unrestricted hours, working in the most common, atmosphere and environment and population that the field currently serves. But Megan, maybe you have more about, I would think that even in the school setting, individuals, the candidates that you're working with are still there in the school observing and working directly with individuals engaging in behavior. Is that right? I'm sorry, did I say Megan? I meant Jenny.
Yes, this is Jennifer White. Yeah, in the schools, we did have several who were in consultant roles who became BCBAs, but they still did that portion that you mentioned, Corey, of training like the teachers and the paraprofessionals directly, which often included like modeling and working directly with the students. So yeah, I would say for the most part, people are having that direct contact with clients. I was just wondering if that was, it seemed like that it was a similar case with the QABA, and according to our fieldwork, except not requiring as many hours, perhaps. And then, you know, we have our task list, which does, I feel like, have a lot that specifies kind of that direct work with clients and knowing how to do that. But I'm not familiar enough with the QABA to know like what do they have a task list, you know, with those things on it as well. I feel like I would need more time to kind of really look through the QABA before I would be able to say, yes, this would be okay to have.
Yeah, I mean, this is Brenna. So like I'll tell you, given, I think we need more qualified people in the profession, and my impulse is absolutely, man, if there's an equivalent credential out there that would increase the provider pool, I am all for it. But I need to know that it really is equivalent. But my, bias would certainly be hell yes.
This is Megan, and it looks like, so it says that restricted activities, which is no more than 40%, and then unrestricted activities is at least 60%. And both of these, it does say that restriction does not necessarily refer to all time spent working with clients under the restricted activities, but it does not specify that you need to spend a certain amount of time with clients. So for the BACB.
All right.
So folks, this is Ann. So where do we go with this? What would be the board's guidance on this?
This is Jennifer.
Sorry. So to be clear, right? So we could approve this credential as a board without additional rulemaking, right?
No, we would.
No,
we
we do rulemaking. Okay.
Right, because your credential is part of your rule, which
right.
is 840300010. What you would have to do if you decided to enter rulemaking, you'd have to vote to open this rule, and we'd have to add, arrange for proof of current certification by this organization to be sent, or BACB, and then that would go out for public comment, and then you would have to consider, you might get 100 comments that are like, yay, this is great, or you might get 100 folks that are like, no, I'm certified by the BACB, and this is missing, and that's missing, and this other thing, and they should be equal, and then there's this whole. So then you would have to weigh that and go forward with rulemaking, either to approve it or amend it, or however that would work. But it's definitely going to be rulemaking.
All right. So it seems like then the next step is to proceed with rulemaking and see what the public has to say about it. I don't know, ladies, do you agree?
This is Megan. Is it possible to gather more information about their credentialing process before we move forward with putting it into rule?
I'm happy to do so. When this individual mentioned this credential, what you have in front of you, the qualified behavior analyst requirements that has the blue on the top, this is all I could find. Their 2022 changes were broadcast on a Facebook page. I am absolutely not comfortable accessing a Facebook page, so I just went and copied their credentialing from their website and put it on a Word document for security and safety. But this is it. This is what I found. If you all would like to spend more time with this, I mean, you're the experts, right? If you want to table the conversation so you guys can think about it and maybe do your own research, because what you're looking at, I mean, I can copy and paste, but what it really means in the field, that's your area, right? And if you guys want to think about it, we could table it and bring it back to either the stutter step meeting or the full board meeting in July and talk about it again. It's not something you have to decide today. And I would lean on your expertise to say, okay, when you guys start talking about restricted hours and hours, I don't even know what that looks like in your profession. So if that's something that you guys want to just take back and roll around in your brain pan for a little bit longer, I'm happy to put it on the next agenda in July, and we can keep the conversation going. So that's another option that's available to you.
Okay. Do we know if Michael Motes, is he called, one of the members of the public is called in to talk to us?
I do not believe so. He's actually a resident of Texas. So I think we would have, if you notice on his letter, yeah, he is currently, I guess he didn't include that. He is actually a resident of Texas currently.
Okay. All right.
This is Megan. I'm open to doing our own research and tabling it and coming back if that fits for everybody else.
It's fine
This
with me.
is for Jennifer White. I would agree with that. I'm just feeling a little concerned that I don't see much information. And so I feel like I really would want to look more into it. And someone did point out to me as well that the BACB does require direct supervision of supervisees with a client at least once a month. So I'm just curious, I would like more information. What do they expect, to occur during their supervision? Like, what are the items that you're supposed to be supervising and competent in before you get certified? So just a little bit more time to look into that.
I think that makes sense. And the other thing I see, right, is it seems like the gist of his request is that QABAs are supervised by psychiatrists or can be supervised by psychiatrists in psychiatric hospitals, which again it's interesting. I just wonder, I've never met a psychiatrist who knew anything about behavior. I don't know, right? I'm having a little trouble based on my experience in the field, seeing how that works. So that also is an interesting question.
And there's another option that Mr. Boswell brought up. In addition to you doing you guys are going to go and parse this out a little bit more. Is there anything that you would like me to request of Mr. Motes? I mean, is there any more information that you would like me to contact him and say, okay, well, this is something that they're thinking about. Is there something he could provide or get for you that would help?
I think that'd be great. Yeah, I think Mr. Motes could be more informative. I'm curious, how many people have this? How long has it been around? How many people are actually doing this?
This is McMahon. I would definitely agree to move to table it for now to get some more information. I do see that there's some information at the QABA site about in these competency worksheets and courses. What I'm seeing though is it looks like for some things like behavior reduction that you're required to have basically two semesters in that 30 hours total. So I'm not a BCBA, so I defer to the group. It seems though that having some more time to look at it and know what we're talking about. So I move to table it.
This is Megan. If we could get some copies of his syllabuses from his coursework would be amazing.
Okay, so you would like syllabi from his coursework?
Yes.
Okay.
I think a transcript, this is Corey Stump, would be important as well.
And the transcripts from this particular credential?
A transcript from his master's program. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So syllabi from coursework and transcripts from the master's program.
And any of his paperwork from his supervision. So oftentimes there's like a form. I mean, at least we have forms that people fill out, et cetera, those kind of things.
Okay. Can do that for you. What else?
Ladies, what about a copy of his supervision record? That's what I'm thinking. This is Corey Stump.
There's copies of supervision,
Correct, yes.
and that would be for the QABA, correct? Not anything he's done from his master's program?
Yes.
Okay.
His supervision would be from his field work.
Okay, so copies of supervision from fieldwork.
Yes.
Got it?
This is McMahon. I just want to add, the only thing that I'm wondering about is there any other representative of that? Because I want to know, when we're looking at perhaps his field work or his, supervision experience, is that representative of, or is it just specific to him? I mean, he may have gone well above what might be the requirement, or it may be very representative. And so I guess I'm curious to see if, I don't know how to verify that, but it certainly occurs to me that one person is just one person.
Mm-hmm.
This is Corey Stump. I agree with you, Marie. And my thought of taking a look at the supervision records is kind of just more to see, generally speaking, what kind of supervision and what type of individuals is he receiving supervision by. I mean, just
Sure.
to speak openly, my initial response, like my initial gut response to this type of approval is like, absolutely not. I'm not okay with this. But I am curious. I want to see, what it is they're receiving and what their experience is like. But I mean, it's going to take a lot of convincing for me to approve this, just personally. Just so everybody knows where I'm sitting at the table right now. But I definitely want to do more research. I'm curious if they have information like the BACB does, just as the state of Oregon does, about how many individuals are certified through this organization. How long have they been open? And I know someone was questioning that as well. But I need a lot of convincing right now myself.
And I mean, to put a finer point on that, as I stated earlier, I really appreciate this individual bringing this to us. I think that's a really helpful and important thing to do. And if you could convey that's great. Our charter is the public interest. And I'm sensitive to the fact that optically most of us are BCBAs. All that said, I'm sitting here asking myself, why would somebody go the QABA route instead of the BCBA route? And I see, well, okay, so the difference is 500 hours at this point, which, ain't nothing. And being supervised by a psychiatrist, I guess, or a psychiatrist, licensed professional counselors, and psychiatric nurse practitioners instead of being supervised by a BCBA. It seems like those are the two really salient differences, right? Like how many hours and who gets to supervise them. And then possibly differences in coursework and the content examination, which we can't know anything about at this point.
Well, to Brenda's point too, if you notice, he is a current BACB behavior technician at the bottom on his sign off. And so my question was, if you've already been with the BACB and you're a behavior technician, why would you go outside the organization? But I thought perhaps you guys would understand that more. I don't know.
I mean, I understand the gist of his communication being, I've been doing a bunch of hours, but they just have not been under the supervision of the people that the BACB requires, but surely they should count. And so we're kind of being asked to judge whether that's appropriate or not. And so in kind of making the determination, I'm thinking about, my personal contacts with the psychiatric profession, and I'm having a lot of trouble seeing any psychiatrist in the role of supervising a behavioral intervention. I mean, they're medical doctors, for heaven's sake, you know, like they spend most of their time thinking about, you know, meds and the medical aspect of you know, psychiatric issues and behavior disorders. And so, and especially, you know, I mean, there's a pretty limited at this point, you know, interface between psychiatry and autism, at least from my personal experience. So, you know, I think it'd be great to broaden my frame of reference beyond my personal experience. I'm having a little trouble seeing it based on my personal experience, but I you know, again, advise my fellow colleagues that, you know, like we need to make sure that we're giving this a fair view, because this is important to our public purpose. And again, you all are BCBAs. There's optics there.
I agree. I'm looking to see. I can't see where that is accepted in any other state. I know I'm looking on the Washington side. I guess I'm curious if any other, I don't know, like licensing board people, and but I'm curious if other boards in other states are getting similar requests, if they might know anything. So that's all.
This is
One second. I'm sorry. I think we lost Corey. Are you back? Oh, there she is. Corey, are you there? Okay, great. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt everyone. Please continue.
No worries, just switching from phone to computer. I'm here now.
Okay, so Marie, you were saying that you were wondering if other states accept this credential?
Correct. I can't, I'm curious about that. I'm not finding that, but I'm, you know, I've only done a very quick research here.
Mm-hmm.
And from my, if my memory serves me right, when we very first started the BARB and we were making the language for our specific rule for how to qualify as an LBA in Oregon, we specifically put that in the terminology for or another approved credential, was because that we were trying to grandfather in, I think, maybe like 3 to 5 people who, you know, were in a boat where they had been practicing ABA in the state of Oregon, but were not BCBAs, but had been doing so and helping a lot of families for a very long time. And I think we've kind of sunset on that, just my initial thought on why we had that there in the first place. If I can remember, I don't believe any of the individuals met any of the criteria to become licensed based on the criteria that we then set forth in our rules for that. And I was on the, what's it called? Shoot, what was the group for?
Rules Advisory Committee?
Yes, I was a part of that back when we very first started. So I remember those conversations as much as I can, but I feel like that's where that was, that's what our loophole was for, but not necessarily for future individuals coming from new organizations. So I'm just dating myself on that, but just kind of.
I thought about that too.
I was there too.
Yeah, I thought about that too, but that rule, it only applied to, yeah, it only applied to the grandfathered people. And the reasoning was that these people had, you know, pretty long track record in Oregon. So we had kind of another way of figuring out what was going on there and their source of information about whether they were doing the right thing by their patients or not. And so it was not a path that by statute or intent is open to, you know, people who don't have long experiences in Oregon. So yeah, that's not a thing anymore.
Great.
I mean, the other thing is, you know, I mean, I'm sure the BACB would have lots to say about this.
Yeah.
And I would imagine the QABA might also have information that would be, you know, important to this discussion. So I'd also consider reaching out to those two organizations and asking for their input regarding this important question.
This is Jennifer White. I also think we should probably look at the APBA, the Association of Professional Behavior Analysts, does have guidelines for evaluating credentials in the practice of applied behavior analysis. So you should probably look over that document and, you know, just make sure that it's meeting all of those guidelines.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Jennifer. This is Megan. I also want to just put in there to think about is that if this individual's experience was in a psychiatric hospital providing behavior analysis, and that's where he was getting his experience. There are very few opportunities for that in Oregon currently. So if we are to approve his license and then he gets put into a home and community setting where those experiences don't transfer over, I'm a little hesitant to have him practice in that setting because it's outside of his scope.
I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, right? But, you know, before the new year, I was contacted by a family with a pretty aggressive adolescent, you know, currently institutionalized in a psychiatric hospital, but unable to get a kind of, you know, longer term bed there, trying to get to Arizona where there is an inpatient ABA facility, and all of the things that attend to that kind of problem, you know, and it, you know, brought home again the fact that, you know, there are patients who need residential ABA treatment, and we don't offer that in Oregon. And that means we're going to either have to figure out how to, as a system, get those people to places where they can be served and pay for that, or we got to come up with an in-state facility. Like, it's a need that exists. And so, you know, I mean, yeah, you know, to Megan's point, right, that isn't something that we do here. There's certainly a need, but there isn't a place at this point. You know, I think there should be and there needs to be, and you all have heard me, you know, rant for a long time about the problems, you know, that there just aren't good options for, you know, for adolescents. I don't think the profession is serving adolescents adequately at this point. And I say that in large part because I have an adolescent, you know, but I don't, so yeah, like, if this is, you know, anything would help with that, like, I'm frankly open to it, but, you know, I don't know that this, I don't have the information in front of me to think, okay, well, this will solve that problem.
Yeah, this is Megan. I agree. It's not that we don't need it. We so need it. It's just I worry that he's going to look for a job in a setting that he is used to and not going to be able to find one. And then it's like a systematic problem rather than a individual problem.
Yeah. All right. So we need more information. And Ann's going to ask this individual for more information. Who's going to reach out to the BACB and the QABA or any other organizations that may want to provide information to us on this?
I'm happy to do that on your behalf.
That'd be awesome.
To maintain the optics of the board. You think I bring you things, right? That's what I do. I go and I get the things. So among the things that I will retrieve for you, you would like from this individual, syllabi from his coursework, transcripts from his master's program, paperwork with the supervision, copies of supervision from field work. Now, is there a qualifier on the, when you say paperwork from his supervision, is that part and parcel with the supervision from field work, or is that a different kind?
Yes, I was thinking the same thing as Corey on that one.
Okay, so mainly we're going to focus on copies of supervision from field work, kind of what that looked like. And I'm going to reach out to the BACB and this other QABA program, and I am going to ask what from them. Do I ask the BCBA about this credential or this credential about the BCBA? Because you know, there's going to be a certain amount of institutional bias there. I'm just trying to figure out what, you know. No, I mean,
we know that there's going to be a certain amount of institutional bias on the part of both institutions, and we will definitely view their input through that lens. But just ask them, like, tell them currently, you know, this is a BCBA in essence credential, and it's been proposed by a member of the public that we consider adding this to the roster. And, you know, do they have any information that they would like to consider, like us to consider as we evaluate that request?
And perhaps the QABA, I can ask them, you know, it's been requested that we currently only accept this. Can you maybe, how many, and there were some other questions that floated, how many people have this credential? Are there any other states that accept it? Just kind of the whole picture, how long has it been around? You know, this kind of stuff. And I can ask them to kind of present themselves, like, you know, show us what you got.
Yeah,
And
same question, right? Like, we're considering this. We find
Yeah.
it interesting. We want to really vet it. Is there information that they have that they would like us to consider, or that
Sure.
they think would be helpful to us as we think about
Okay.
this?
I can certainly do those things. And I don't know how long this is going to take. So I would beg of you to allow me to table this until the July meeting, because I don't know how long it's going to take me to fetch all the things. And
Okay.
I would like to get them for you. So if that's okay,
All right.
I will
Works for
have
me.
this on, and you know, I might ask this individual for these things and he might decide he doesn't want to come here from Texas, in which case I can contact the board. I mean, if he decides to bow out of this, because he has a credential in Virginia too. I mean, he might be looking for a place to go, right? So he might say, you know what, I've got this other job over here, in which case I can contact you guys and say, this individual has withdrawn his request. Would you like to consider pursuing this? And maybe I can just ask you now, even if this individual backs down and decides he wants to maybe do something else, is this credential interesting enough to you for me to continue to fetch things?
So I kind of think we have to say yes to that question.
Okay. All right. I got it.
Yeah, I think given, you know, given the state of the market and the needs of the patient population, and especially the composition of the board, I think it's important that we investigate this, even if this individual has other issues or whatever.
Okay. Okay. I just want to understand the full picture and the full intent.
Yeah. And I would, you know, also suggest or ask that when you contact the individual, like, tell them, thank you. We're really interested in this. We didn't know about this. We really appreciate it. We're really interested in following up. We're asking for information, not just to, you know, make this personal or make work for him. We're really trying to get our arms around this, blah, blah, blah.
Got it. I can do that.
This is Megan. I'm definitely open to it. The other thing I was going to say is it might be helpful to, when you reach out to the QABA, is to have that document that Jennifer was discussing from the APBA to reference in case they have information on there that would be helpful to ask the QABA.
Man, the acronyms in this group is just
I
getting
know.
tougher and tougher. Okay.
We have acronyms instead of difficult personalities, though.
No, you guys are lovely and you're really fun. So, okay, so I think I have my fetching list, and hopefully I might need to reach out to the chair or the board for additional guidance. I don't want to have an inadvertent board meeting, but if I hit a wall, like I don't know what this means or whatever, I might have to reach out and say, can you translate this for me? You know, so that I know I'm in the right direction. So I can take care of that. So if we're okay, I think I've got my marching orders, and I'm going to bring this back to July. We're going to continue to discuss, and based on the conversations about the updated code and this, we no longer have a need for Section 3. We will not be taking any vote today. I wanted to have that as an option. One, we're going to get legal advice on the current code, the 2022 code, and hopefully going to, if it gets blessed by the attorney saying there's no problems here, we can have a short meeting to just open the rules. I'll bring proposed language and a schedule for you guys. And the second request is still under discussion, just for the record, and we will come back in July with stuff to look at and talk about in July. So unless anybody has anything else for me, I'm going to turn this back over to Mr. Bothwell.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're not going to vote.
No, but the letter.
Oh, that's in public comment. Okay. So when Bob takes back over, we are going to, we have a script for Megan to open. We have folks on the phone, I believe, that want to comment. We also have a letter under the public interested parties feedback that was submitted yesterday. I hope you guys all had a chance to read it. Just before Bob sits back down again while he gets, I made such a mess here. It's appalling. We got that letter just yesterday, and there's a lot of issues in it. And probably we haven't even had time to digest it. There's a lot of requests. There's a lot of thought in there. So you're welcome to discuss it. HLO would request a little bit more time to digest all of the requests and all of the questions that were contained in that letter, and some of it might require some legal advice. So we're not particularly prepared to discuss it just because it came in so late, but y'all are welcome to discuss it. Does that get us there?
Do we have it?
It should be in your packet.
I don't see it. I'm sorry.
Oh, it all got sent. It should be in the pack materials 1 that has the agenda in it, and you'll see the slide for public interested parties feedback. Do you not see it?
So there's the slide that says public and interested feedback, but there's no letter attached to it.
Okay.
And I didn't get anything from y'all yesterday.
Okay. Okay, because we resent it. I hope we didn't end up in the junk folder. I grabbed it and added it to the materials. And April, could we get them out again? That's okay. Be patient. We're going to double check because we resent those. April is going to blast that setback out to you. So with your patience, thank you so much. That will be coming to you. Just scroll down past the slide and take a moment to read that document when you get a second. Hey, while we're doing that, does anybody need a break, a potty break or anything like that?
Could you some more coffee?
Okay, so do we want to, while this comes out and you guys have a chance to take a look, if we could break at 10:15, are we okay with coming back? Do you need 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
How about 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. You guys are awesome, and we will be back on at 10:25. Thank you so much. See you soon.